the history of Blackwater's use in various capacities throughout this horrible last decade, man.
Mostly killing, death squads. Yuck, man, I tell you. It's grim what's being done in our nation's name, I tell you.
There's a couple of other links there. Oh, this one about Buzzy Krongard being linked to this killing program. Spiegel.de, the German paper, Death Squad Blackwater accused of creating killing program, and other flashback articles to articles mentioning that fellow.
And a few weeks ago, we talked about how it's come out, what was, I think, pretty much known and suspected anyway, but it's really confirmed that Blackwater XE has been involved in human trafficking, sex slavery.
Yeah. Glenn Greenwald over at Salon.com has a really good one. What every American should be made to learn about the IG torture report, and he's updated a couple of times since writing it about a week ago. Wrote earlier today about Eric Holder's decision to review whether criminal prosecutions are warranted in connection to don't say it. Okay. Are warranted in connection with the torture of terrorism suspects. That can be read here. But I want to write separately about the release today of the 2004 CIA's Inspector General report, linked to the PDF, both because it's extraordinary in its own right and because it underscores how unjust it would be to prosecute only low-level interrogators rather than the high-level officials who implemented the torture regime. Initially, it should be emphasized that, yet again, it is not the Congress or the establishment media which is uncovering these abuses and forcing disclosure of government misconduct. Rather, it is the ACLU, with which I consult, that, along with other human rights organizations, has had to fill the void left by those failed institutions using their own funds to pursue litigation to compel disclosure. Without their efforts, we would know vastly less than we know about the crimes our government committed.
And let me just throw this in there. We have a story tonight about an official with ACLU who has died a suspicious death.
Oh, yes. Larry Frankel.
Yes.
Found dead in Washington. This is from YoungPhillyPolitics.com.
An ACLU lobbyist, in Pennsylvania. This article here by, looks like a congressman, Representative Mark Cohen. Anyway. He's written this. He's executive director of the ACLU in Pennsylvania, Larry Frankel, has been found dead in Washington under mysterious circumstances. And this goes on to say this is a breaking news story in which most key facts are still generally unknown. But it's something you have to wonder about. We were talking about the ACLU last show, how there's a few things you can't comprehend why they are on that particular side of the issue, but they do a lot of really good things. They do a lot
of good things.
And you have to wonder with these revelations with regard to torture, is there a connection here? We don't know, but it's something to look at. It's something to file away to see if anything emerges later about this case.
Yeah, it says, a proud gay man, he was militant on the issue of gay marriage, believing that it was far more important to keep the legal option of gay marriage by defeating a constitutional amendment banning gay marriage than to enact civil unions legislation, an uphill battle that some, including myself, thought was winnable. His views on gay marriage were somewhat vindicated when 4 New England states and the state of Iowa legalized gay marriage this year. Another one to keep an eye on, as you say. And the other suspicious death that I know you want to get more into than we have time in this part, the rest of the segment, but we can start. There's a lot of links here to the case of Brian Jones.
Yes.
Several links here from the Daily Mail and TrueTV.com. Brian Jones, death of a Rolling Stone. Police reviewing Rolling Stone, Brian Jones's death, new evidence.
Yes, founding member of the Rolling Stones, Brian Jones. That case is being reopened. And really, the information here is not new. This has been talked about for some years now, that Brian Jones' death, which at the time was attributed to misadventure, that is, the allegation that he was drunk, stoned, and just drowned in his swimming pool in England because he was messed up, that there's no basis for that, and that in fact there were witnesses who apparently saw him being murdered, being drowned. And just skipping through some of the facts in this case, which, we'll just be able to get started on this here in this segment, but it says here, last November, fresh evidence was revealed from nurse Janet Lawson, who found Jones' body. She said she saw his minder, Frank Thorogood, jump into the pool and do something to Brian. She was convinced he had killed Jones. And Thorogood died in 1994. Her claims are supported by P.C. Albert Evans, the first officer on the scene, who spoke to all the witnesses in the hours after Jones' death and concluded he had died as a result of a fight with Thorogood. New evidence also emerged about the original investigation by Detective Chief Inspector Bob Marshall, which shows that 3 unidentified witnesses were allowed to leave the scene without being interviewed. Police files have revealed how taxi driver Joan Fitzsimmons, a former girlfriend of Thorogood, was attacked and left for dead 3 weeks after Brian Jones died. According to the official records, Miss Fitzsimmons was planning to speak to the media about Jones' death. And it goes on and on and on. But what gets really strange here is that apparently there was a cover-up. I mean, the explanation that we're given is that it was some kind of disagreement between Brian Jones and this fellow Thorogood and 3 other men and a couple of women who were there at his home that night. But then you find that, well, as I just read, that witnesses were allowed to leave the scene without being interviewed, and important leads and witnesses were not followed up. But here's what's really strange. According to Anna Wolin, years later, the Stones chauffeur, Tom Keelock, got Thorogood to sign a deathbed confession, a document that has never been published. On the night of Jones' death, Thorogood had called Keelock to tell him what had happened, and Keelock went directly to Cochford Farm. According to Wolin, Keelock took control of the situation. This is the chauffeur for the Rolling Stones. Now, by this time, Brian Jones had been kicked out of the Rolling Stones. So why was he there? The Stones' press agent, Les Perrin, arrived next, and he was the one who found Jones' inhaler by the pool. That was important evidence. It's kind of complicated to get into. Wolin claims that in the days after Jones' death, Perrin had offered her money to keep silent and not talk to the press. He eventually persuaded her to sign an agreement stating that if she gave any interviews, she would say nothing that could harm the reputations of Brian Jones or the Rolling Stones. The agreement also gave Perrin the right to review any article written based on an interview with her before it was published. Why, she wondered, were the Stones' management so worried about bad press? Brian Jones was out of the band. How could his death harm them? Were they trying to protect Thorogood? If so, why? Well, in the months, years immediately preceding Jones' death, there had been a lot of harassment that the Rolling Stones, in particular 3 members, Brian Jones, Mick Jagger, and Keith Richards, they were constantly being arrested, busted for pot, And we'll get into the rest of that after this.
Stay tuned. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us on PsiOp Radio. That's my bloody Valentine. Thank you very much, guys. Hey, Max, so you're just going into the details about this suspicious death of Brian Jones.
Yes, the mysterious death
of the Rolling Stones.
Yes, Rolling Stone founding member, Brian Jones, who died mysteriously. And